So there's a thing you have to understand. There's like a combination of like, some people are, okay, when it comes to living in the West Bank, you've got three groups of people. You've got basically ordinary ass people. You've got like a little bit more hardcore people. And then you got like ultra hardcore people. So after the 67 war, you have this place called, do they call it the Green Line, I think? Where, I can't draw this for fuck all. Pretend this is Israel. And then pretend this is something like this or whatever. Yeah, let's pretend that's a real map. Okay. I think you have like a Gaza Strip, and then you've got, we'll call this the West Bank. Okay. This is like Jerusalem or some bullshit. So, after the 67 war, you get like a bunch of settlers kind of, that are living in this place near, I think it's called the Green Line. And these are the armistice lines that were drawn after the 67 war. So like people will move here because it's cheap, because it's cheap. It's cheap and you can live in Israel. These people are not generally like the most insane, ultra hardcore Zionists, like I'm going to fuck people up or whatever. They're just like, it's cheap housing. They can move to Israel. And like, it's way cheaper to live here than it would be to like live over at like in fucking Tel Aviv or some other place. Okay. Then you have people who will live in settlements, I think, that are deeper in. I think like, oh God, fuck. I don't know any deep settlements. Hebron is like down here is kind of deepish, and it's split into two areas. Is it what, H1 and H2? Am I making that up? And there will be, fuck, there's one up here near Nablus. Yitzhar maybe? These are like deeper settlements, and I think usually the people that live up here are a little bit more extreme. You're like, I'm in a deep settlement. I live here because I'm trying to fucking reclaim it with my children so that we can take this back for Israel. Okay? So you've got like your Green Line settlements, which is anybody can, you know, live here, whatever. And then you've got like your deep settlements, which I think are usually your like little bit more extremist people. These things are all authorized more or less by the Israeli government. All of them exist in an area of Palestine that's called Area C. In the Oslo Accords and as part of Oslo II, the West Bank was divvied up into three areas. Area A was given exclusively to the Palestinian Authority. Area B is just an area that I don't believe Palestinians or Israelis settle. It allows Palestinians to travel between the Area A places. And then Area C is areas that are owned by Israel that are eventually going to be handed over to Palestinians, the Palestinian Authority, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So most of the settlements are in this Area C area. Then you get places where what an Israeli, these are the most unhinged people. These are your hardcore people. They're called the people that go to outposts. So what an outpost is you're basically saying to a friend, hey, let's get like a bunch of tents, camping equipment, trailers, whatever the fuck, and let's go build in Area A where we're not supposed to be. And if the IDF catches us, they're going to tear our shit down and, you know, whatever, move it out. If some Palestinians catch us that don't want us here, we're going to get into some violent conflict. But the goal is that if we can build enough shit up here and we can start to live here, at some point, the Israeli government is going to be forced to recognize us as an expanded settlement. And the outpost people are like your most hardcore, evil, terrible, horrible fucking people. He said earlier outpost, but I don't know if he's familiar or aware of the difference between an outpost and a settlement. But maybe he is, and maybe he'll get into it, but that's the difference. If people are doing outposts, that's generally really, really, really bad shit. Settlements, the deeper ones are questionable. And you can argue if any settlement is okay or not okay, but just know that like when a lot of people live in quote unquote settlements, you wouldn't even know, like these might even be west of the wall. You might not even realize you're in the West Bank if you're in some of these settlements. They're just like on the eastern part of Israel. Nobody really thinks as much of it, but.
Population in Gaza to go to other countries. You will witness how Jews...
Yeah, Yitzhar was the one that I brought up before, is near Nablus. That's Teepish, and those are the crazy people. That Yitzhar was where that one guy kicked us out, the crazy dude with the fucking weird hair and whatever.
To go to...
Netanyahu.
What do you mean? Like this? No, I call his aid.
I would be careful here. There's a lot of different things going on here. One is how much the government supports the settlements has just been a thing that's been has been fought with back and forth. Like some people accused Sharon, I think, of supporting settlements, and maybe even the early Netanyahu supporting outposts in the West Bank. But I believe in 2008, I think there was a huge report that looked up like how so much money was getting funneled to outposts in the West Bank. And I wish I could remember the name of this. It was a pretty famous one, but the idea was that the conservative governments were secretly shuttling money over there to help them grow. But in actuality, I think the prime ministers and the governments were usually like, hey, this shouldn't be happening. But there were people in the government and there were people in the outpost that were working to funnel money over there at the opposite of the behest of the government, like against the will of the government. They were doing this. Also, when somebody says they can call somebody, everybody in Israel has everybody's phone number. It's fucking ridiculous. Maybe it's because the country is so small, but when I got over there and got hooked up with WhatsApp, there's a reason we're talking to like former prime ministers and shit. Like, it's just everybody seems to fucking know everybody in this fucking country. Can you explain more about the historical element? Jews were there. It's not like a myth or a rumor or a meme. Like, Jews were there for like thousands of years ago, right? Like the land of Judea, Rome conquering them and all that. Like that's just historical fact. They were there way before any of the caliphates or, what would become known as the Palestinians or anything like that. The whole argument over Israel-Palestine seems to be, when do you want to stop in your historical analysis? And then you just go from there. Like, people will say, like, the pro-Pallies will say, history didn't start on October 7th, and that's true. Okay, well, when do you want to start it? And they'll be like, history actually started in 1880 or in 1967 or like and Jews will be like, well, actually history started pre-BC,
Yes.
So it's kind of bullshit. There's like 100 plus checkpoints I think that got set up. I think it was since October 7th, and these checkpoints are just in the Palestinian territories in the West Bank. They're just there, and if you're Jewish you can go by them, and if you're Palestinian you can't. And sometimes they're closed, and so what would be a 20 or 30 minute drive you might have to take like an hour detour. It's just kind of some arbitrary cucked bullshit. Say that some Arabs descended from the same group of people and converted to Islam or intermarried. The shit is, yeah, sure. I mean, you could say, just the historical argument is just kind of stupid. Like, depending on how far back you want to go, both sides can play different angles of it. Arabs will point out, well, some of these Jews migrated from Europe or Russia, which is true. But then Jews will point out, well, most of the Jews living there now are actually descended from Middle Eastern people because they were kicked out of all the other Arab countries, which is also true. But that was after 48 and 67. That was after the wars where the Jewish people that did come from Europe kicked the Arabs out after they lost that war, which is true. And it's just fucking cringe and cucked. It's stupid. The historical arguments are, you can argue anything you want, basically. Try to get in Annapolis. Basically, they'll just call in and they'll see if you're on any list. And then whoever is on the other side of the phone will just decide whether or not he thinks they should let you in or not. I don't know if they say this officially, but I'm pretty sure there's a good faith reading of this and there's a bad faith reading of this. And I generally agree with the good faith reading of this with a little bit of bad faith. The good faith reading is that depending on how you look at it, the IDF really doesn't want like random fucking journos or random like Westerners going in, because they view people as like some dipshit from, Europe is going to come in who wants to go on some peace tour, and he's going to end up in a place where he shouldn't go, some more crazy place like Jenin or something, and he's going to end up in trouble. And if a Westerner gets in trouble, then they have to send the IDF in to get you out, and that's a whole potentially international crisis. Like, shit is about to get wacky as fuck if that's what they have to resort to. And then other times it might just be that they just don't really want Westerners going in because they don't like the anti-Israeli pro-Palestinian people coming in, and so they're just like, fuck this guy, don't let him in, fuck him, get him the fuck out of here or whatever, unless he's on some list where they can arrest you or whatever else, then they'll just arrest you and bring you in. But your big issue out here, the thing that is like the most bullshit, is that when you're out here, if you get caught as an Israeli up to no good, then you get to go through the Israeli ordinary civil, or not civil, but the Israeli court system. But if you're a Palestinian, you get caught out here, you're subject to the Israeli military tribunals. So like one of your strong arguments for apartheid, which I think analyzing this apart is retarded, but one of the strong arguments for apartheid is the dual legal system that the different peoples can be subject to. That if you are Palestinian and you get arrested out here, you go through the Israeli military shit, but if you're an Israeli citizen, you get to go through the Israeli ordinary courts proper.
What do you think?
It's a quick meme break. Carney has dropped significantly in terms of what people think is going to happen. Votes are coming in, but supposedly the Liberals are underperforming a bit. On Polymarket, the odds have dropped from 70-22 to now they're almost even, 55-45. Thing about Hebron is that Hebron is split. There was I can't believe I don't remember this. It was part of Oslo too. It was the redeployment to Hebron. I think this happened in 95, but it split into two areas where like 98% of it is occupied by Arabs, and there's like this very small section of it that's occupied by only Jewish people. Fuck, is there a clearer map of this? But if he's in the if he's in Hebron, he's just in the small he's in the small Jewish area of it. Here it is, I think it is H2, and it's on like a hill overlooking, and you can see all of the. But basically, it's a massive Arab city or Palestinian city or whatever. Sorry, whatever. You have to be pretty ideologically driven to live out that far. Carney's coming down again a little bit, but still 68-32. Damn. Harley dropped out of Creator Clash 3? Oh no. How come? Refresh at 74 now. Is there live news coverage of the ongoing election stuff? All this shit is pretty good. I think. Wait, maybe. Okay, never mind, not quite. Watch CBC. Oof, dude, my throat is killing me.
Cast their ballots today. Now their choices are revealed.
Sometimes I feel like the Israeli settlers in the West Bank are some levels are radical to some of the Palestinians in Gaza. Neither of them want any sort of compromise. Oh, they are. They're just as radical.
Canada votes 2025.
And as we're saying, we've already had a lot of results, but there are a lot more to come. In 30 minutes' time, we will get results from 266 more ridings, a huge amount of data and a huge amount of votes from Quebec all the way over to Alberta and to territories. That round of votes will come fast and furious, and things will start to look a lot clearer in terms of the direction of this country going forward. You can see there, though, at the bottom of your screen, that is where we are at now, with Atlantic Canada results coming in. 22 leading and elected for the Liberals, Conservatives at 10, and the Bloc Québécois at 1, and that's because only one Quebec riding has closed at this hour, and that's in Gaspésie, Île-de-la-Madeleine. Okay, we do want to show you one person who was re-elected handily tonight, and that is Dominic LeBlanc, re-elected in
Wow, good job. He did it.
the riding of Beauséjour. As I said, handily for Dominic LeBlanc, of course, a cabinet minister under Mark Carney right now. And there he is tonight. Dominic LeBlanc, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on your re-election.
Hi, Rosemary. Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you. First of all, I want to ask you about where the Liberal Party is at coming out of Atlantic Canada here. Leading or elected, we've got you at 22, the Conservatives at 10. Those weren't quite the numbers that we understood that the Liberals wanted to see at this stage of the evening.
Listen, a win is a win.
I think that's fair, but there are a lot of votes still to be counted. I've been looking at some of the results in some of the New Brunswick or Nova Scotia ridings, and there are still a lot of polls to be counted. And my experience tells me often the polls that are slow to come in are the ones where there was a very heavy turnout in some advanced polls.
Sure.
Or other big turnouts on election day today. Look, sure, I think that we should still be very confident in Mr. Carney's campaign, and I'm confident that there's going to be a Liberal government. It can be a majority government, but we'll see as we get into the heavy numbers in Ontario, Quebec, and provinces like British Columbia, I think, will also be very instructive.
Well, we've been talking a little bit about how the race has shaken out so far, and it does seem as though the one thing the polls were right about is this is a two-party race. The NDP rather, coming out of Atlantic Canada at just over 4%. How difficult is it then, Dominic LeBlanc, to kind of project where that might go across the country, given how the Liberals are performing and the Conservatives are performing?
So that's a question, Rosemary, that I've asked myself for the last number of days when we expected some of the smaller parties, the NDP and the Green Party, not to pick up a lot of support. In Ontario, in British Columbia, even in provinces like Alberta, Manitoba, that could lead to a number of Liberal wins, of Liberal pickups in terms of seats. I'm quite confident, as I say, that we'll do very well at the end of the evening, but I certainly have seen, I saw it in my own riding, Rosemary, Sackville, New Brunswick's in my riding, where Mount Allison University is. There's a traditional New Democratic vote in Sackville, New Brunswick, and some of the communities around Sackville. It hasn't been showing up in the polls that I've seen, in the results I've seen. Didn't show up in the all-candidates meeting I went to there 2 weeks ago. So I think you're right. We should ask ourselves what that means in some of the bigger provinces like Ontario or even British Columbia.
I did notice there, Dominic LeBlanc, that you used the M word. You used the word majority. Is that an expectation, a real expectation for you tonight?
It's a hope, Rosemary, expectation. Look, Mr. Carney ran a great campaign. I think that we can absolutely finish with a Liberal majority government. That's certainly what I'm hoping for. I think it's realistic, but we have to wait for the votes to be counted. So I remain very confident. I'm proud of the campaign that Mr. Carney and my colleagues ran, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results.
Okay. Shouldn't you be at a party at this stage of the evening then?
You know what, Rosemary? I stayed here at my residence for an extra 10 minutes to talk to you, and now I'm probably going to drive too quickly to Shediac because I've got people waiting there, so thank you for noting that.
Okay, well, we can confirm that you're on your way in just a moment. Dominic LeBlanc, nice to speak with you tonight. Congratulations on your re-election.
Thank you, Rosemary. Hope to see you soon.
Okay, sounds good. That's Dominic LeBlanc, re-elected in Beauséjour tonight, and again, talking quite confidently about how the Liberals' evening is going to unfold. Hopeful, he says, but still possible that he says the Liberals could get to a majority. Let's go back to David Cochrane to give us a sense of what the parties are looking for next. That was hopeful optimism there from Dominic LeBlanc.
So a few things on that. You see the scoreboard there, 23-10. One of those is the Gaspé Magdalen Islands, which has slipped from the bloc to the Liberals. It's 22-10 in Atlantic Canada right now. 25-7 at least is what the Liberals wanted to see. Maybe 10, 11, 12 is what the Conservatives wanted to see. We know the Conservatives have flipped one seat in Newfoundland and Labrador. Long Range Mountains has been projected elected, but we have not yet projected the Terra Nova and the Peninsula's riding and the St. John's East riding, so those are still in play. Part of the problem is this. We have more than 70% of the vote counted in Newfoundland and Labrador. But we've just hit the 50% mark in Prince Edward Island, and we're below 50% in New Brunswick, in Nova Scotia, and only just over a third of the vote counted in New Brunswick. So it makes it very difficult to call some of the ridings when you're still under half of the vote there. So here we are. The Liberals wanted to be at 25, the Conservatives above 10. That's the state of play in Atlantic Canada. But let's broaden it out. Let's go into Quebec, because we're going to get in 23 minutes from Quebec to the Rocky Mountains. Those polls are going to close and results are going to start coming in, and we're going to lose track of some of these Atlantic Canadian battles. Quebec, 78 seats in that riding. This is what it looked like last time, right? It is this blue, that is Bloc Québécois blue, not Conservative blue. But let's go to the Greater Montreal.
They have the same color?
This is the key battleground for the Liberals.
Why?
They need to dominate the island, and they need to move into the North Shore ridings. Oops, I just touched the map. Sorry about that, folks. That just shows you how sensitive it is. But they need to move into the North Shore ridings and the South Shore ridings, where they are in fights with the Bloc Québécois.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And this is why Yves-François Blanchet's closing argument is so important in this particular race, by saying that we know Marc Carney is going to win, the Mr. Blanchet decision test said, but you can send more Bloc Québécois members to Ottawa to stand up for the interests of Quebec, trying to woo people back who had huddled around the image of Marc Carney for security in the early stages of the election. Jagmeet Singh making a similar argument in English Canada. So watch for that in terms of whether the Liberals, whatever ground they lose in Atlantic Canada, whether they can make it up here. They want their number to start with a 4. They want to be at 40 or above. Then we're going to get into Ontario, which is the key province in this election campaign because it has 122 seats. That's Newfoundland and Labrador, PEI, the North, BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba combined, all in one. For the Conservatives to win here, they have got to storm the doors of the 905, which, as you can see, all around Toronto is red seat after red seat after red seat, except in Toronto St. Paul's, where Don Stewart won that by-election last year that really started to catalyze a series of movements that got us to an election with Mark Carney as the Liberal leader. You need to see all of this turn blue tonight, or a lot of this turn blue tonight, and a lot of this turn blue tonight. If the Conservatives are going to continue the trend they may be starting in Atlantic Canada, the Liberals need that to hold. And where they were hunting for their majority in the final days was in southwestern Ontario. Not so much these blue Conservative seats, but the orange seat in Hamilton, the green seat in Kitchener, the orange in London, the orange in Windsor. This part of Canada is where the election story and the Trump story intersect at scale, because it is the home of the auto sector and the manufacturing sector. It is the most vulnerable part of the country to the trade threat presented by Donald Trump. So if the Liberals are below the 25 mark in Atlantic Canada, when all of these polls open, they need to be at 40 in Ontario, they need to be at 80 in Quebec, because they need to hit the Manitoba border at around 145. They think they can win a seat in northern Manitoba. There's going to be a fight in the Winnipeg area where you can see St. Boniface should be fine for them. But it's these two NDP seats where the Liberals have ambitions, where the NDP needs to hold in their quest for party status, and they think they can actually take some seats from the Conservatives in Winnipeg West and in Kildonan and St. Paul. They believe they have a shot in Saskatchewan up here. This is a Conservative seat in the House of Commons that was just dissolved, but with the redrawing of the boundaries and the overlaying of the vote from the last election, it projects to go Liberal. Just a projection. That would be where they hope to gain. And of course, Edmonton and Calgary, NDP, Conservative and Liberal fights there. But if this continues, Rosie, if the Liberals underperform in the Atlantic, though as more votes come in, they get back closer to at least status quo, they need to pick up ground here and pick up ground here, because the chances for targets are narrower on the prairies and in the north, and then a whole lot could be riding on British Columbia. But they just got one more seat on their quest there, and that is because the CBC Decision Desk has elected Joanne Thompson in the riding of St. John's East, the fisheries minister in the Mark Carney government. And the last Liberal incumbent to seek re-election is returning to Ottawa, and the CBC's Carolyn Stokes is standing by at Joanne Thompson's headquarters. Carolyn, take it away.
Take it away.
Hi, David. Yes, I'm hearing that CBC is projecting that Joanne Thompson has held on to her seat, but actually not many people here in the room have heard that yet. We've had no reaction to this yet, so no cheering or anything, so we're just, here we go.
Oh, there they are. Oh my God.
Okay, so this room, very, very happy people here. We're expecting Joanne Thompson to come out now and give a speech. Lots of celebration, as you can see, and a pretty good showing, it looks, for Joanne Thompson tonight. Holding on to the seat, heading back to Ottawa, and with not as many Liberal colleagues from this province as before because of the loss in Long-Range Mountains, and Clifford Small holding on to his seat. So, yeah, this is the situation here in St. John's East. A lot of happy people. David.
All right, Carolyn, thank you very much. Joanne Thompson beating David Brazel, a former leader of the Provincial Conservative Party, Mary Shortall, the president of the NDP. Rosie, I was getting texts from people there with Carolyn saying, why haven't you projected Joanne Thompson elected yet? We're going to change the channel, is what they were threatening to do. That's not why we did it. The numbers just got to the point that we could.
There's a little delay, just a delay between us saying it and it appearing on your TV screen. But that also, nice to see when people get excited to win. Adrian is going to, as we get closer to the polls closing here, in many, many, many ridings, you've got a big one, and you're going to give us a sense of what we should watch for beyond the trends there that David was talking about.
Yeah, rolling up the sleeves, 122 seats
big one.
to keep an eye on. Given what David was just saying, Rosie, about the pressure, definitely the Liberals want to pick up places that they won in 2015 and then lost subsequently. Places like Peterborough. They lost it in 21. The Conservative candidate, Michelle Ferreri, the incumbent former radio show host. Redistribution makes this one a little bit more of a potential pickup for the Liberals, but an indication of how much is at stake here. Both Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre have spent important time there. Let's look at another one that David was referring to. This is one of the 4 NDP seats that were held in Ontario, Windsor West, front line of the trade war. that has had 2 Mark Carney visits, 1 Pierre Poilievre, 2 Jagmeet Singh. Carney was there almost as soon as he became Prime Minister. He was back a few days ago. This one is one that, boy, the Liberals are counting on picking up if they can. One last one to look at that I think is really relevant here. This is King Vaughan. Again, the Liberals won it in 2015, then they lost it in 2021 by very few votes, but also it had the lowest turnout in the province then. Been very interesting to see Mark Carney there in the last few days of this race.
Okay,
Rosie?
Adrian, thank you for that. Just wanted to give you a little update on the Elections Canada website. It is all working now. So if you are still waiting to vote, if you're trying to get to your polling station, you can go to their website and you can put in your postal code and find out where you need to go. So that problem has been solved. And if you are wondering what's happening in your riding and the polling has closed for you, you can also find that on our website, cbc.ca/results. In case we have not mentioned your riding or you're just tuning in, that's a good place to go to find it. Catherine, you've got a lot coming up as well.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to be looking at results in Alberta and Quebec tonight. Rosie, why don't we start in the West with a sample of what we might see? Edmonton Centre. Now, this was Randy Boissonneau's old riding. Former cabinet minister, you'll recall, he resigned from cabinet in November when there was controversy involving his former business partner. The
Liberals know what happens if the Conservatives win. Will anything change in Canada and the U.S.? I have no idea.
Because with redistribution,
I don't think even the Conservatives are too keen on working with the Trump people.
Conservative if you transpose the results of the last federal election. Let's move to Quebec with some real high drama south of Montreal. This is Châteauguay, Les Jardins, and Napierville. The Bloc candidate in this riding, Patrick O'Hara, he ran last time. In 2021, he thought he had won on election night by more than 280 votes. Started making plans to go to Ottawa. It was a judicial recount. He lost by 12 votes. Now he is back. Redistribution in this instance favors the Bloc, but the Liberals have a star candidate, Nathalie Provost, known for her fight for gun control. Finally, the last vestige of the orange wave in Quebec. The only NDP MP in Quebec is Alexandre Bouleris in the riding of Rosemont-La Petite-Patrie, and that is where we find the CBC's Quabina Oduro. Quabina, it has not been a terrific night for the NDP so far in terms of what we're seeing in the numbers. What is the energy like in Rosemont?
They mad.
Well, Catherine, the energy here is starting to pick up. More volunteers and more candidates are coming to join the party over here. I asked them about how they're feeling about how things are going so far. They said that they are optimistic that Alexandre Bouleris will keep his seat here in Rosemont-La Petite-Patrie, but they are not liking what they are seeing. As you just mentioned, it's not a really good night for the NDP out east, and they are feeling it here. But they say that in Montreal, they feel like they will keep this seat because when they went out to talk to people in the riding, they say that people have been giving them positive feedback. And the issue that they say that they are hearing the most is the housing crisis and the cost of living. And Alexandre Bouleris says that if he gets re-elected here, he's going to handle and he's going to make sure that he holds anyone who is elected accountable at Parliament when it resumes. Catherine?
Okay. Thank you very much for that. The CBC's Quabina Oduro in Rosemont-La Petite-Patrie. And Rosie, you know, if the NDP is going to maintain official party status tonight, that is one of the seats that they would expect and hope to hold on.
Yeah, and you need 12 seats for that. And that is important if you want to have money and opportunity inside the House of Commons and get to be part of committees and have questions and all those kinds of things. So we'll talk more about that as the night goes on. Ian, as we mentioned off the top of the show, we talked about that tragedy in British Columbia, how it affected the last day of campaigning at that Filipino street festival. 11 people dead, more than 20 people injured. The city just really grappling with such a shocking event, coming at this joyous community event in Vancouver, obviously affecting the campaign as well, and had become kind of a part of the campaign on that last day of campaigning.
Yeah, and I'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. You know, thinking about what's happening in New Brunswick, where the NDP vote has collapsed, but what impact does it have on seat change? None at all. Like all the parties that won last time are either elected in those same ridings or on their way. In BC, if the NDP vote collapses in the same way, it likely will have a huge impact in terms of changes among the Liberal and Conservative count. In a riding like Port Moody, Coquitlam, if you look at the redistributed results in that riding, 35% is what the NDP had in terms of support in what are the new boundaries. 32% for the Conservatives, 29% for the Liberals. So imagine a world where the NDP support dropped by 50
I can't even imagine it,
points,
guys.
for example.
Jesus.
And then who picks up the seat?
Mainly because
On
I have no
Vancouver
fucking idea
Island,
what any
take a
of
look
this
at
means or
Nanaimo,
matters for.
Ladysmith. There, the leading party was the NDP with just over 29% of the vote, the Conservatives at 26.5%, and in third place, not the Liberals, but the Greens with almost 26% of the vote. So again, in a world where the NDP ends up losing 10 percentage points, 15 percentage points, then all of a sudden you wonder, does that go to the Conservatives? Does it elect even a Green member? Yeah. So that it's really intriguing. So, you know, the political observer in all of us finds that intriguing, even exciting to see what's going to happen. But there's the other part of the BC story, as you mentioned, and it's with, every time I think about British Columbia, it's with a heavy heart right now. I mean, everything changed on Saturday night, and so many of us, you know, just feel very close to what happened there. I know the neighborhood very well. And so we're toggling here between those two things, political excitement, but also the heaviness of what happened there on Saturday.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ian. And we are trying to reflect a little bit what's going on in Vancouver because, listen, Lindsay Duncombe talked about how people were voting, but they're also voting with all of this weight on them. Lindsay, you're in Vancouver. Give us a sense of how people are doing and what is happening there right now.
People are so overwhelmed, Rosie, by the shock of this, the sadness, the grief, the loss, the anger.
I don't know anything about this terrorist attack.
7 o'clock this morning, and people just keep coming, and they're
Well, apparently the guy drove a truck into some people in Vancouver. Not cool. Not good, guys. Don't do that.
Show you what the crowd looks like now. It's after work, after
Not a terrorist attack. It was a schizo. Oh, well.
This memorial, which is taking up much of this corner, and this is the same scene on the other side. There are just as many people there. On the other side of the police tape, there are 2 more memorials, a little bit smaller than this one, where people have also been gathering. I think there's just a real sense that people want to show that they care, that they want to care particularly about the Filipino community in this city. This was, as you mentioned, a celebration, a festival of culture, and it all just went so tragically wrong when 11 people were killed. We know that there are 16 people who remain in hospital, so there is this sense that people are hoping for their return to health, even as we know many of them are in, or at least some of them are in critical condition.
Okay, Lindsay Duncombe, thank you for speaking to us from Vancouver. Wanted to make sure we talked about that because I know a lot of people in British Columbia with heavy hearts again still today. Thank you so much. The leaders certainly responded to that on the last day of campaigning. We will see if it gets mentioned again at all tonight. Obviously, they did continue to campaign, but the campaign looked very differently in those last hours and had a lot less energy perhaps in some instances because people were trying to address 2 things as they were unfolding. Did want to address something that's happening there on the bottom. So
we had a quick 60-second LARP as if you were an expert Canadian analyst. Let's see. We've got the Lib Party. Well, I mean, I know a little bit, so I can kind of bullshit. We've got the Lib Party, who are expected to be big beneficiaries of the anti-Trump sentiment sweeping across Canada, expected to do really well tonight, although they are underperforming in some key areas, which is leading them to be quite nervous about the incoming results, although they still feel quite confident. The Conservatives are confident as ever. Their own internal polling shows that they are overperforming the biased Liberal media polling that's happening in Canada right now, and they know there's still a lot of votes out there left to be counted in heavily Conservative areas, so they're quite confident that as the vote continues to pour in, that their advantages are going to become more apparent. The barbecue party, I guess, are upset because nobody in Canada likes barbecue, too many vegans. And then you have the Green Party, who also is upset because Mark Carney said, fuck the carbon tax, nobody cares about green shit anymore. We're all about oil now because the United States fucked us over. And Quebec is still there. There you go.
Screen, and you can see a couple of block numbers. The polls haven't closed in Quebec yet, so there may be some early returns that have been put in. We're not going to pay too much attention to it yet because the polls are going to close in under 10 minutes. 2 party leaders this time are in the nation's capital, both Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre, both running in ridings, neighboring ridings, in fact, in the nation's capital. We're going to start to see the results from their own ridings soon. One has never been elected to public office, and the other trying to get elected for an 8th time. Let's start with the CBC's Ashley Burke at the TD Place. Ashley, how are they feeling so far about things?
Well, Rosie, the doors are about to open here at the Liberal headquarters, and we're expecting supporters and volunteers to start filling this room. The stage has been set for Leader Mark Carney to appear here later tonight. On the first week of the campaign, we were at a rally when he said that he was seeking a majority government. Then his language changed, and he talked about in the final week here that he wants a strong mandate. I'm getting texts from sources saying, with the campaign, saying that so far so good based on what they're seeing from the results. One person said that the theme of this campaign has been pragmatic, that they want to over-campaign, they want to be overly cautious and overperform tonight. And they've been targeting, Mr. Carney's been targeting, going on the offensive in places like Atlantic Canada, targeting ridings that were held by the Conservatives. And the theme of his campaign really has been trying to remind Canadians and hammer home his message about what's at stake this election. And for him, that's Donald Trump and his threats to Canada's sovereignty and the economy. But tonight, it will be Canadians that are the ones deciding if it will be Carney sitting around the table with Donald Trump at the end of all this or not.
Okay, Ashley Burke, thank you for that. You are in Ottawa. You're finally home after a crazy couple of hours there with the Liberal campaign crisscrossing the country. We'll come back to you through the evening, of course. Kate McKenna with the Conservatives. She's at the Rogers Centre in Ottawa. Kate, what is the word there? Perhaps a little bit
Bird
of
is the word, always. Remember, bird is always the word, guys.
Yeah, quite a lot of optimism at this headquarters, Rosie. It is open. There are people here. There are a couple hundred people here watching the results as they roll in. And of course, Atlantic Canada is a difficult region for the Conservatives, but what they're seeing on the board is making them extremely happy. I was going out and looking around talking to people, and they were scrolling their phones saying, why are we ahead in this riding, or why are we ahead in that riding? And of course, as you've been saying, these are early returns, but a lot to be excited about if you're the Conservatives, because they're then saying, well, if they're outperforming the polls in Atlantic Canada, then what's going to happen when they hit Ontario with all of those seats in Ontario? And in fact, just a few minutes ago, one of the leaders of this campaign came by and gave me just a big 2 thumbs up. They're very excited about what they're seeing in Atlantic Canada. They're not losing seats so far in Atlantic Canada, and that's a very positive thing for them going into these Ontario results in the next few weeks. In fact, I think there's one pickup there for them, so I can see why they would be encouraged by that. Kate McKenna, thank you. So I'll talk to both you and Ashley Burke a little bit later throughout the evening as more results start to come in, and we'll get reaction from all the people you're talking to there. Thank you both so much. Appreciate it. Just a reminder that polls are closing in just under 5 minutes in many provinces, Quebec, Ontario, and all the way through to the Rockies and a couple of territories. If you are in line, if you are waiting to vote, stay in line, because even after the polls close, you have the right to
vote as long as you're there, guys.
If you're watching this on your phone and wondering where things are at, your vote will matter in this election, that's for sure. So stay where you are and make sure it gets counted. Catherine Cullen has a result.
Yeah, well, we've got a few interesting stories coming out of Nova Scotia. A little bit of drama to start with. First couple of races here. Central Nova, Sean Fraser continuing to be in second place. You can see about a 400 vote difference. So this one is certainly one we're going to keep following through the night. You want to talk, though, about dramatic races. What is happening in South Shore St. Margaret's here right now? The Liberal challenger in the lead, but an even smaller margin, 354 votes. The incumbent is Conservative Rick Perkins. He picked up the riding in 2021. And if you want a sense of what this has looked like, certainly for the candidates and the teams watching this race closely over the course of the night, check this out. What has been happening. And you can see sort of that big bump at the beginning, but just look at how close those lines are, Rosemary. So this is definitely going to be one that we're going to have to follow closely. And we're going to take a little jaunt back to Halifax as well, where we have the candidate projected elected, and then where the CBC's Tom Murphy finds himself tonight is in the lovely riding of Halifax. Hey there, Tom. What's going on?
Thank yous than I have time for that you want me to.
Hey, Catherine. Yeah, another bar, but a different mood in this one for sure. Shannon Meadema, the Liberal candidate here in Halifax, projected elected, as you say, taking the stage to make her acceptance speech. And boy, is this room boisterous compared to what the NDP camp were. A lot of people wondering where that NDP vote would go, because going into this election campaign, the NDP were thought to be leading.
Clappa.
And by the sound of this room tonight, you can tell
I don't know why they're talking about Clappa.
things turned around. Shannon Meadema is a political rookie, a real neophyte. She just finished saying in her speech just now that she is not a politician in the regular sense. She even wondered if she had to make a speech tonight or not. So that you got to keep going with that speech, because it's what the people in this room want to hear. An impressive win for her tonight. Obviously, people, that big election question issue about who would be best to attract or deal with Donald Trump and tariffs in the United States. People in this riding seem to swing to the Liberals on that front, and it seems to have made the difference. We're going to try and get Shannon Meadema for a quick interview as soon as she wraps up her speech here, but obviously this is one of the seats that the Liberals were really working hard on trying to bring around, and tonight they did it.
Thank you very much to CBC's Tom Murphy waltzing from bar
2 minutes
to
until
bar
results. We need a 950 for Carney.
Rosemary, not a politician coming from a Liberal. That sounds a bit familiar.
Yeah, it does sound very familiar. Okay, as we get ready for this next large amount of votes coming in and polls closing, did want to show you where we are as we leave leave Atlantic Canada. This is the vote change.
950
in
guarantees a Carney
you can
win,
see
100%.
there, the Liberals
Okay.
up 8.6, but the Conservatives up 9, more than 9%. The story, though, coming out of Atlantic Canada is really about that NDP number, down 12 percentage points, and that tells you that they are not performing well in Atlantic Canada, and this really is confirming what we knew about this race, and that this is a two-party race. Let me show you the seat change in Atlantic Canada, and this is what happens.
Okay, hold on. I can't do this with her talking. This doesn't count. I can't do it with her talking. That's not fair. That's not a real one. That didn't count. Hold on. I'm sorry. Okay, he's got it. He's got it easy. 4
percentage points. By the numbers, it's all gone to Jonathan Rowe, the Conservative, as has the People's Party vote. In this riding, the Bull Arm fabrication yard that built the Hibernia project, there's an oil refinery there, so it's trades people and traditional offshore industrial base. So the NDP collapse is more that blue-orange thing rather than the orange-red. So that's how it's playing out, at least right now.
That's what Jason Kenney was warning us about, or telling us about. Yeah. Okay, good. So good thing to keep in mind as we get ready to bring you a whole lot more information. This is where the bulk of your votes are going to be counted now. Almost 9:30 Eastern. Polls are going to close between Quebec all the way to the Rocky Mountains and two
Why do they
territories.
call them the Rocky Mountains? Those are our mountains. They should call them something different up there.
Who is going to form government as we come out of Atlantic Canada? You can see
Let's
where
go.
the
Liberal
results
majority.
are at the bottom of your screen.
It's
Polls
coming.
now
It's coming. It's
closed
coming. It's
in
coming.
much
It's
of the
coming.
country.
It's coming. It's coming. The Liberal majority. I don't even
Polls have
care.
now
It's not even my
closed
country.
in most of Canada, and that means we're about to get the biggest waves of results we'll get tonight.
Oh boy.
From Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, the Northwest Territories, and Nunavut. 266 more seats will be added to the count. Many of these are key battlegrounds of this election, ridings you need to win to form government.
This doesn't, we don't care.
Okay, so that is what is to come. Let's look at where we are right now. Coming out of Atlantic Canada, the Liberals leading and elected in 22. The Conservatives with
What are we
10,
looking for, by the way? What numbers?
We're not going to talk too much about it. We believe some early results were put in for one riding in Quebec, but there is one riding where the Bloc is leading, and that's in Gaspésie-Île-la-Madeleine. But you can see there, this is not exactly the way the Liberals wanted the evening to start. It's an encouraging sign for the Conservatives, but remember, it was just 3 months ago that the Liberals thought that they were kind of hopeless, not only in forming government, but certainly in losing a lot of seats in Atlantic Canada. So that is part of the story as well, the recovery of the Liberals that we've seen after Mark Carney took over. Ian Hanomansik.
There are two ridings in New Brunswick right now where our decision desk is not in a position where it can project a win.
My God.
And one of them is Miramichi Grand Lake. We told you at the beginning of the evening that this could be close. It is the one riding that 4 years ago flipped, in that case, from the Liberals to the Conservatives. The lead has gone back and forth, and as you can see, just 472 is the lead for Mike Dawson over Lisa Harris. And the other one I want to show you, which is still in play, is Madawaska-Restigouche, still a lead here for the Liberals, but the last, one of the interesting things when you look at the numbers here for Madawaska-Restigouche is that the Liberal candidate, who's not the incumbent, is performing at about the same level that René Arsenault did the last 3 times. It is the Conservative vote that has really surged compared to last time. And so relatively closer, I think, Rosemary, than a lot of people expected. So these are the two ridings in New Brunswick, which are still, at this point in the evening, in play.
Okay, thank you for that, Ian. Polls now closed in an additional 266 ridings, meaning that we are going to get a lot of information very quickly about where Canadians are at. Want to bring in at issue, if I can, just for a moment, to get a sense, Chantal, of what you're going to watch for now, as so many more polls have now closed.
Well, obviously, what happens to the Bloc Québécois vote, whether it's going to be down, as was predicted, or whether the Bloc will hold its ground. The only riding that we actually have numbers for, Gaspésie-les-Îles-de-la-Madeleine, and I'm not even sure that we're getting the entire numbers, because a section of the riding is actually on the same time zone, in the same time zone as the rest of Quebec.
I see.
So, but this riding, which we will get a result, a more definitive result early, is significant.
When do we get the results?
It's actually 2 ridings because of redistribution.
Right.
A former Bloc riding and a Liberal-held riding. So someone is going to lose a seat here.
Yeah.
And if the Bloc keeps the seat, as opposed to the Liberals, it may be that they'll have a better night than they would have otherwise. But the big area to watch, obviously, for the Liberals is in and around Montreal.
Okay.
And that is also true of the Bloc, with some battles in Quebec City, mostly against Conservatives.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you, Andrew, in just a minute. But Ian's got some results because you can see the numbers on your screen moving there.
Yeah, counting super quickly in Battleford's, Lloydminster, Meadow Lake in Saskatchewan. We already have a few of the votes counted. And there are a couple of things that are notable about the results to this point. First of all, this is a riding where you'd expect Rosemary Falk to win. She has already, and her vote share in 2019 was 78%. In 2021, 69%. And it's even greater at this point. It's in the 80% range. And one of the reasons for that may be that Meadow Lake.
This is a rural Saskatchewan. Okay. Fuck. Okay, listen. I'm dying. Who can I host? Find me somebody I can host.
Part of the Desnethé, Mississippi, Churchill River riding. The fact that it's now moved.
I don't know how long this is going to go on for.
Rosemary,
I don't even know when we will talk tomorrow.
Potentially for the Liberals. It makes that more likely a place where the Liberals could pick up. And the Liberals have not won a seat in Saskatchewan since 2015. The Conservatives have won all of the Saskatchewan ridings in 2019 and 2021.
Okay, Catherine Cullen, I believe, has some
Are you sick? I don't know. I just have a sore throat. Hopefully it's going
Let's
tomorrow.
start with a new riding, Les Pays d'en Haut, where you can see, Rosemary, this is an area, now, again, only 2 polls reporting, but based on redistribution, this is an area we'd expect to go Bloc, but the Liberals have a candidate, a local mayor in the riding, who is going to have a little bit of name recognition. Let's move on to Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. This is a Bloc Conservative fight, so interesting to see the Liberals.
Hi, I can't really talk. What's up? Ready for a short thing, or?
Oh, if you can't talk, I can come back to.
Okay.
I just heard you tapping out, so I don't know if it was because you're so bored or because you're.
No, my throat is fucking killing me. But hopefully tomorrow it's better.
Okay. Hope you feel better. All right, I'll check in tomorrow.
Have fun. Be careful.
Candidate from the Outaouais, Yves Levesque, former mayor in the area, and René Villemure.
The channels are chat, but I don't think I can host them. They're not like showing up. I don't know if they ever turned off.
Middle of the race. It is a riding that we've seen a lot of the leaders visit. Very dynamic.
Oh yeah, they don't have to redirect turned on. Rip.
Yeah, I was talking to our colleague Louis Blouin today, who says that none of the parties knew what was going to happen here. And to be fair, it is a riding that I have visited several times covering federal elections. Always a little bit hard to read. Andrew, what are you watching for now as more polls are reporting? What are the things that you're going to keep an eye on?
Well, there's been 2 things happening. We've been focusing on how the race has been tightening between the Conservatives and the Liberals.
Right.
There's also been a bit of a bump up in the Bloc support in Quebec.
Fuck the Bloc. Okay. Good luck.
In the last couple of weeks of the campaign.
Yep.
And why
Hold
that's
on, if I
important,
get connections,
in a first past the post system, everything's on such a knife
they'll
edge.
win.
Small little differences in the popular vote can lead to major changes in the seat.
Moose,
What was really
I think,
working for the
drain,
Liberals when they were
bear,
projecting 45
tire,
seats in
hair,
Quebec was
boar,
the Bloc and the Conservative vote was almost perfectly equally divided.
tire,
And that's an
mark,
ideal thing
exhaust,
for a front runner. If the Bloc
plain,
starts getting ahead of the
spray,
Conservatives,
spare,
then that, a lot of
fiber,
seats
wax,
can move
simple,
on that.
fingerprint, and
Similarly,
gel.
in Ontario, it's easy to, we often say the national numbers don't mean that much, it's regional. Well, the race had been tightening in Ontario as well. And Ontario votes, the seats have traditionally been so closely fought that a relatively small tightening in the popular vote, again, can mean quite a few swings in seats. So we'll have to see how much of that tightening was real and how much of it turns out on not to have been.
Okay, great. Althea, I'm going to come back to you, but first I want to get to
things that you can like coat stuff in, like a mousse, a spray, a wax, and a
What everyone is
gel.
looking for in a province like Ontario is a flip.
Hair
And in
products.
some very early
okay.
results, we're starting to
Base.
see one. Let's begin with Algonquin, Renfrew, Pembroke. Now, one poll of 262, a lead of only 5, but keep in mind, Cheryl Gallant has held on to the Conservative Party has held on to this riding since 2000. Cheryl Gallant, a long-time MP there. Just a lead of 5, but everyone immediately always looks for flips. You're not seeing a lot, though, in the early results. Let's look at Haldimand, Norfolk, Leslyn Lewis there. That's a sizable lead already, 737, with only 5 of 266 polls reporting, counting very fast there. One more to look at, if we can. David McGuinty won one poll, but already a lead of 1,000 over the Conservative. That is
wow.
Not surprising.
No, I was
Good job.
it's
Apparently, we
been a
don't care
Liberal
though.
riding since 1988. So
Polymarket has the Liberal chance to win or to have a majority down to 38%.
What was it, Justin Trudeau that put him in cabinet? Yeah, Justin Trudeau. Yes. Yeah. And then he stayed there with Mark Carney. So he would like to hold on to that and stay in his cabinet job. Ian, you have some results.
Yeah, we have 2 results in Manitoba so far, Winnipeg West, and at this point, it's really early. I show you this, though, not so much because of the count, but that this is a riding that both the Conservatives and the Liberals feel really good about. And it is a rematch between Marty Morantz, the incumbent
This has to be related. Simple, plain.
Who used to be the MP for this riding. So we're going to keep a close eye on this through the evening. The other result
Oh, wait, makes you tired.
from Manitoba.
Drain, exhaust,
huge lead
tire.
for Dan Mazur. He is the incumbent MP there.
And
He's won the
you
last
bore
2
me?
elections.
Oh
with
my
huge
God,
margins.
weary.
So even though it's early there, this is probably an indication of how Riding Mountain will go, Rosemary.
Okay, thank you for that, Ian. Let's just take a look and take a pause for a moment.
Plain, bare, simple, and
tonight. As we've said, most of the polls in this country have now closed. British Columbia, of course, and Yukon still to come. But as we see those results start to come in, take a look at where they're at. Liberals leading or elected in 37, Conservatives 26, and the Bloc at 9. Nothing yet for, oh, look, the NDP's just popped up, of course, as I said that, leading in 1. If you want to see who has been confirmed elected, you should head to our website or have it open as you're listening to us. cbc.ca/results is where you can find that.
This is never...
A lot of people also asking me
Oh my God.
advanced
Austere?
polls.
Okay.
Yes, there was
True.
a huge number of you that voted on those advanced poll weekend. It is up to every polling
Clues at a
station
crime
to
scene.
decide when they
God,
count
there you
those.
go.
You
All
can
right,
count
good
them
luck.
As early as 2 hours before, or you can count them right at the
River and a
end.
cappuccino.
So
I'll be back tomorrow. Good luck. I love you all very much. Good luck, Canada. Host per sec. Is he streaming on YouTube? Kick. Oh. Good luck. What's his name on Kick? He's not even streaming on Kick. You guys are retarded. Good luck. Bye.